Hey, Kaylee.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It is not spring, but I'm pretending it is. How about that?
I lose track of seasons, so I'm spoiled because it's like sometimes it feels like summer all year round. It never feels like winter. So, I'm spoiled. I was
Yes,
in
yes,
Chicago,
you
though,
are.
where it was supposed to be colder, but it was actually warmer, if that makes sense.
I don't feel bad for you, Joe, if that was an effort
I
to.
know. I hear you. So, sometimes we start with we have a really good premise. Other times we start with somebody who listens or watches and
Mhm.
they tell us, "Hey, can you talk about this?" This time it's from a story that I heard, and I was a little surprised I hadn't heard the story because I think a story like this is so near and dear to our hearts as like OD people who think about culture. So, I thought this story would be a good place for us to kind of launch the conversation because
Sounds
it's a
good.
story that even though it's about a factory, I think it applies to any workplace in the world.
Mm.
And I think we'll make that case after we just kind of set it up. So, this is a story that goes back to the early 80s when there was an interesting dynamic between Toyota and General Motors, where General Motors and Toyota partnered on a joint venture for a variety of reasons. And it doesn't really matter why. But the essence of it was a factory that had closed in Northern California, and that factory was reopened by Toyota. And it was like Toyota's opportunity to show GM how they produce cars. And then GM was contributing their factory to that. And I think GM thought they were clever by giving Toyota a poor performing factory that had closed with a workforce in the area that was really difficult to lead and manage because they were very sort of disheartened. And there was a lot of absenteeism and all kinds of performance problems. So when Toyota took over, they did some very different things. They first took people in batches to Japan so they can get trained in how they built cars side by side with the Japanese workers. And that piece alone created an incredible impact on the people because the people came back and they felt really blessed that they were treated with such high respect, that they were brought to a place and highly regarded and felt like they said they almost felt like humans for the first time because people have studied this story from different angles. So they felt the humanity of that gesture. Number two, the way they built cars involved a production line with this kind of yellow cord that anyone can stop the production if they notice a problem or a challenge. And that sounds like a small thing, but it's really not. Think about it. Anyone can pull the cord and stop an entire auto production line. And what they learned from that was that they had the autonomy to think. In their previous job, they were just supposed to sit there and drill in the bolts.
Mm.
In this job, they were asked to try to make it better. So they would suggest new tools and configurations and they would mock it up and they would see their work product become part of the production to make it even better. And that kind of autonomy, that kind of inclusion made a huge difference. And because they were all more engaged, they were more excited to be there, they felt more valued, there was far less absenteeism, there was much higher engagement, and their productivity was far better than any other plant in the GM system. So they became the number one producer of cars in terms of their speed and turnaround time and quality. So I think the lesson there was same people, different system made a world of difference for the outcome. And it's also there's an old adage: if you put good people in a bad system, the system wins.
And so applicable to any other workplace, even today.
Absolutely. I mean, how many times have we felt like a cog in a machine in our careers? Not how many times, hopefully not many times, but from time to time, did you feel like a cog? Did you feel like, you were just kind of being used for an impact? Or did you feel like a whole person where you were invited and your work was meaningful and you were included and people cared about what you thought?
And how quickly do people realize that? At what time on your journey of employment does it all of a sudden become apparent to you where that truth line is?
Yeah,
Because I think it's within the first 30 days.
for sure.
I mean,
I agree.
or
I
even
totally agree.
or even in a moment, there can be one specific moment that might be very indicative of what systems are currently in place, how much people are valued in that way. So
Yeah.
how do you see this showing up? How do you want to break it down? Because I think there's some really interesting pieces in that story.
Yeah. So after thinking about the story, I kind of looked at it in terms of 4 beliefs that the organization holds, because I think
Okay.
if an organization has these 4 beliefs, they create those conditions for the people. And maybe why don't I run through them and then we could just talk about them one by one.
Yeah.
So the one belief is people are thinkers, not just a pair of hands. The second belief is problems are discussable, not something that we sort of pull away from. The third belief is people care about the outcome, not just their piece of work. So they kind
Hmm.
of think about the whole product. And the fourth one is the system is built for learning, not blame. So mistakes happen, failure happens. Are we looking to blame someone? We're looking to see what we learned. So why don't we start with people are thinkers, not hands? Because so many times, leadership makes decisions and people carry it out. And do we sometimes forget to include and inform and let them have a voice in the work they do? In any business, it's not just manufacturing.
The the people who are doing the work are the ones that are closest to the truth. And if
Exactly.
we're not willing to engage them in the right ways, there's such missed opportunity. I'm thinking of an example. I worked for an organization that had several different manufacturing plants, and they were wanted to roll out a new trainer program, and they just said, "Okay, here's the executive team, go ahead, get their feedback and roll out the program." And the team I was working with came in and went, "We're missing a huge piece of the puzzle here."
Right.
And we said, "It isn't going to happen in 2 weeks. It's going to take 6 months." And we started meeting with we would meet at the shift briefings. We would
Yeah.
go and attend and listen to what they were bringing up for safety concerns. We'd go and sit in the cafeteria and have a conversation with the folks on the line and learn more about what challenges they were facing. And
Right.
Joe, the outcome of just spending a little time connecting in the space with which they were led to an entirely different game plan on strategy for content, for
Hmm.
how we delivered that particular material.
Yep.
And it wasn't what executive wanted. It didn't move as quickly as they wanted originally, but the output ended up being substantially more valuable and more impactful. It's the
That it's funny. Your story has 2 layers to it,
Okay.
because your
Oh,
your
good.
part of your story is about the manufacturing thing with Toyota. It's
Mm.
essentially recreating that dynamic. But the other layer that maybe our listeners, viewers should really tap into is had the autonomy, or at least the invitation, to say, let's pause here and let's not do this the quick way, because you could have easily checked the box and been successful, because sometimes
Mhm.
success is on paper. Some success isn't measured in the outcome and the output. And that's where, belief 3. So we're jumping ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your story is belief 3, which is people care about the outcome, not just their piece of work. Your piece of the work was to create
Mm.
training. You could have created the training, checked the box, and been successful. But because you knew it wouldn't affect the end user the right way, you didn't
Mm.
include them, you didn't understand them, you did it the right way, and you cared about the impact your work was going to have in the long run. So that jumped right to belief 3, which is fine. That's perfect, because
Okay.
that's really you saying, like, I could have just done my part and shut my mouth. But how many organizations invite that versus, was that a risk for you to say, let's take 6 months? Like, how did that come about?
I'd say the benefit was there was an influencer within the executive team that we could appeal to. There was an in where someone was willing to understand that this will be a better use of your money, was
Okay.
really my in, Joe. That's
Okay.
what I had to say. The investment, the time off the floor that we would need for these individuals, I go, instead of being a 16-hour in-person program, we could do it in 8 if I knew the exact right content to focus on, which saves you
Mm,
this amount of money. So
mm,
because I had an individual who was willing to have that conversation and I could position it in a way that appealed to that which was motivating to that particular leader, it was my in. It was an automatic
nice.
yes. They went, "If you can save me money and make it more impactful, give it your best shot," I think was their actual words. And we did. And it was phenomenally successful, but to the point where we we changed the image of what learning and development looks like within an organization versus just, "Oh, I gotta go to another training course." We had a wait list of people that were normally never going to be coming to training because they were a part of the content. They helped develop it.
Yes.
So I know I'm jumping around. I'm not sure which belief I'm touching on, but it's
No,
making me
well,
think
there's
back
no
to
rules
that.
here. There's no rules. They knew that because they had input and they trusted the output would match the input they gave, that the training would be
Mhm.
worthwhile. And then the
Yeah.
first few people who went were proof that it was worthwhile because they spread the word.
Yeah.
I've
That's true.
experienced that as well. I have a similar example, by the way, of an executive program. So to say like this only applies to frontline people, it only applies to mid-level people. Here's an executive program with the same, belief three thing. And don't worry about the numbers or the beliefs. It doesn't matter. It's simply the concept of you got to care about the end product more than the accomplishment of your job. My job was to design and deliver with others an executive leadership program in collaboration with the university, but we designed it. We worked with them to find the right professors who fit our needs because not every professor provides relevant insights for business. So we really crafted something that we loved and we were proud of, and it was a 15-month program. So it was like, a program where they would really dig in on topics and meet like once a month for a couple of days and have
Mhm.
coaching in between. And long story short, the CEO was hesitant for the coaching piece because the program was already expensive. Coaching was felt like an add on because you had individual coaching relationships. Plus, everyone was going to be technically a certified coach, which doesn't mean they were going to hang up a shingle and be an ICF coach. It was simply saying, we want to create more coaches in the organization who know how to coach people in a real way. So I just kind of made a stand and said, if we don't do the coaching, we shouldn't do the program. And that it worked because it hit people in the right way when they heard how convicted I was to say the outcome will never be the same without the coaching. And of course, what happened, the coaching was integral to the whole thing. People were grateful for it. That's something they talked about. That was some of the reasons they thanked the executive sponsors at the end. They thought the coaching made them a better spouse, a better friend, a better partner, because it was this kind of coaching that got below the surface. It wasn't just making them a better leader. So, standing on that kind of principle of, I don't care about getting the accolades for creating an executive program if I don't think it'll make a difference. I want the program to make a difference. And that's where that's the hill I would die on. And I think that's what we're talking about here when it comes to the kind of beliefs. The company that believes that does that automatically. They don't need employees to kind of make a stand.
Yeah, they're not looking at them for just their hands. They're they're
And,
looking for
and
their
on a relate
hearts too.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're not looking for them just their hands, and they're also they're inviting them to say like, tell us if this is actually going to work in the long term, which backs us up to the other belief, which is simply, do we even feel comfortable saying there's a problem? Are we allowed to pull the yellow cord? I say yellow cord, that's the factory cord in the car production line where you can pull the
Yes.
cord and stop the line. In your job, can you pull the cord and can you say stop and say, if we do this, we're going to be in big trouble as an organization? Or do you sit back and, I don't know, grab the popcorn and say, let's watch this thing head towards the
Let's
iceberg?
see let's see what's around this next corner. I
Exactly.
I think what you're asking there is a good question for even just a leader to self-reflect and ask themselves about their own team. You
Yeah.
know, do you believe that anyone, no matter their title, that is working for you and with you at any point in time can put their hand up and pull the cord, pull the chute, whichever analogy.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's a good reflection point in
It
that
is.
way.
It actually takes a lot of courage to reflect on that because you have to be prepared to answer that honestly and to really see if you're delivering on that promise of like,
Yeah,
you
you know
know,
how I can tell? I'm just
yeah,
thinking of another example. You
yeah,
can tell if that is the case. I don't know if you experienced this as a consultant going in and spending time with the team because it doesn't take long if you're paying attention.
yeah,
And I feel like the observation is what happens in the room 5 seconds after someone names a problem.
yes, yes,
It's
yeah.
the
How much scanning happens?
yes.
Yeah.
I'm just realizing that as we're chatting. It's one of
Do you
the
hear
things that
people? Do
I
you
guess I'm
feel
doing
the
it.
breath leave the room and everybody holding their breath?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's the space after a problem gets if it does, first of all, if no one's articulating a problem, maybe that's part of it. But if they do, it's the aftermath. It's the immediate 5 seconds following to
right.
pay attention to what happens because is that ever a moment to to give insight into the safety and the understanding of that particular leader or that team.
Yeah. And even in a team of like peers, technically, and I say peers like an executive leadership team.
Hmm.
So I've done work with ELTs where, and I guess we shouldn't use any jargon because
Yeah.
executive leadership
Yes.
teams, because when this is
Yeah.
not a podcast for like OD people only.
Even
So executive
that's
leadership
also
teams, you
jargon, but
think
yeah.
they're theoretically, most of them are peers except the CEO, theoretically, right? So you would think there would be a lot more truth spoken in those rooms. Well, some of the work I've done has been to talk to them individually and then work with them collectively. When you hear the undiscussable stuff one on one and you don't hear it in the room with the ELT together, that's a red flag. The red flag is, oh, so you guys and gals don't really talk about anything important. You just kind of say yes to whatever the CEO wants or whoever's in power. Sometimes it's a CFO. Sometimes you have an incredibly powerful CFO. The CEO is loyal because, no margin, no mission. And those two run the whole room. And then the side conversations after is where all the fireworks happen. But boy,
Mhm.
nobody brings it into the room. So it happens at every level. At the highest level of organizations, I've seen this BS where the real stuff doesn't get discussed in the room because they don't invite the problem into the room. It's like nobody could pull the yellow cord because pulling the yellow cord is basically pulling your own golden parachute where you get ejected from the organization potentially. And,
And
well,
then
financially, that might work for a little while. You don't want too many of those on your resume when you were a senior VP or whatever.
and it trickles down.
Yes,
If that's
that's the
what's
culture.
happening in recently I did some work with another executive team, and I kept thinking the whole time, if this is the kind of conversation that is happening at this level, imagine the conversations happening for the directors, the assistant managers, all the way throughout. That
Right, right.
there's an additional set of responsibility the moment you take on a leadership role. I just maybe that's off on a tangent a bit, but I go,
No.
there's so much responsibility attached to that. And even how you show up with your peers affects everybody else from there.
Mhm.
I see that. Okay, what belief are we on now?
Well, I messed up our
I screwed
order,
us
but
up and jumped around.
let's do a recap. We talked
Okay.
about
Okay.
people are thinkers, not a set of hands.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then not in order, but the next thing we said is problems are discussable. So
Oh, yeah.
so maybe, a little more on that because I think there's so much to do there. And then the third one was people protect the outcome, not just their piece, right? They care about and that we really had some great examples for that. But I think there's probably a little more to say about problems being
Mm,
discussable because it's not just your courage to say it, it's the invitation to say it. It's the person saying, what am I missing? It's modeling that behavior of, if I want to know the truth, I have to invite the truth. And the best leaders invite the truth. The best leaders say, look, I don't want to fail. You don't want to fail. What am I missing? What do we need to know here? Like, is this going to work? What do you really think? And you say that, you do that time and again, and you don't punish the comments you get. That's the key. People will start telling you more and more. You build that trust brick by brick, question by question, answer by answer, repercussion by repercussion. What does that mean? You ask, you get answers, nothing happens bad or nothing bad happens. Same thing over and over again. So I think that's an important one. You just can't wait for people to volunteer the problem. You have to create the conditions as a leader, as an organization.
So even if people are doing that, okay, let's say they're going out, they go, sure, I have the conversations. What do you say to the people that come back and go, we do engagement surveys not once a year, 3 times a year.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they're, proud of that. Fair enough, because they're checking
Right.
in. But what do you find is the dynamic or the really telling piece about surveys just in that way? Because
Yeah.
you
I have two observations. No, I have three experiences with surveys that I think cover a lot of ground. So I'll make it really quick. Number one, I had an organization that didn't like the results, so they buried them. So that's probably one of the worst examples where they never released the results. People took the survey. It was a Gallup
Wow.
survey too. So it's like, one
Okay.
of the
Yeah.
I think it's the best one.
I like
The
it. Yeah.
Gallup survey, their grand mean score was pretty awful, and they just buried it. And
Mm,
they really confidently told the organization some BS story about why, and they couldn't face the reality. So that's like the worst example.
mm.
The other thing I've noticed is People don't trust the anonymity, especially in these smaller surveys, private companies that people don't know who the survey company is, and they think their boss is going to see or the CEO is going to see. They just don't trust it, so they say what you want to hear. So you get a lot of performative fake survey results. The third example is there's so much focus on the score. Everybody starts to just agree silently that we just want to hit these scores so everybody shuts up and we feel like we accomplished something and we're like a really good company. So I've seen companies do that where they're like, let's just work for this score. I know what my boss wants. I'm going to give the score that they want so everybody just leaves me alone. Those are the three dysfunctions that I've personally seen more than one time. Hiding the results was one time because that's rare. That was like 20 something years
It's
ago. But the other stuff I've seen many times.
definitely. Yes. We say there's a certain score on paper that's the problem, but
Yeah.
in reality, these leaders have unknowingly trained people to stay quiet.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You have to own that as the leader. You
Yeah.
train them to stay
Yeah.
quiet. That's what's happened.
You don't want real results. You just want whatever the organization is striving for. Because very often these surveys are linked to some achievement. That's part of the problem. If the survey was truly about feedback, this would be a learning thing.
Hmm.
And that goes into belief 4. Nice
Oh,
segue.
nice transition. You nailed it, Joe.
Belief 4 is, this is all about learning, not blame. So
Hmm.
if a survey is about learning, it's about tell us really what the culture is so we can make it better. But if the survey is about blame, it's what areas gave us low scores so we can fix those areas. Because when you think about it, a lot of times the initiatives around fixing low scores is getting those areas to realize you're the outliers. So get your people to get the survey results online. There may not be a lot of actual authentic effort towards making the culture better in those areas. And, ironically, there's one more twist that's important because I've seen this and I know it's true. Sometimes the worst leaders get great results because they scare the hell out of their people and they get really good scores. And the good leader gets like less than great scores because their people are honest and they're like, hey, you're not perfect. So a good leader gets you're not perfect scores. And the awful leader who's militant and rude gets the highest possible scores because everybody's scared shitless that they're going to figure out it was them. And they don't want to be the one who, he or she figures out that you're the one who caused my score to drop because I'll figure out who did this to me. So that's the irony I've seen out there. So you can't even rely on that kind of stuff. And that's why I'm a big believer in let's have conversations with people. Let's stop surveying them to death. Let's just check in and say, how you doing? How am I doing? What do you need? What else do you need to be successful? What's working? What isn't?
The being on the floor, we used to call it back in my hotel days, we used to call it managed by walking around.
Yes, exactly.
Because I don't know if
Exactly.
people still say that or not, but I always loved it.
Yeah.
I thought,
Yeah.
isn't that
I
your
kind of
job
forgot that
anyways?
term. You're right. People used to say
Yeah.
managed by walking around. Yeah.
It was an abbreviation too, right?
Yes.
MBWB. No, WA. MBWA. Something like
Yeah.
that. We used to say. Oh,
I just had a flashback to those moments we
yeah.
talked about it. Management by walking around. Yeah.
And that was I remember the first time I heard that. Gosh, that'd be 20 years ago now. And did it ever stick with me? And I thought it was the most simplified way of looking at it. And I thought, yeah, that's exactly what you should do because then when you see it, say it. Oh, I noticed the cart was over here. Let me move it here. Like you're in it. You're giving feedback in real
Yes.
time because you're always walking around. So it's not a big scary deal. You're
That's
giving
right.
positive recognition in real time. It's people see you, you're visible, you're out there, you're in it.
Yes.
That just came to me and I'm writing that down as a good follow-up with my
Yeah,
current.
right? It's the old school one. Well, my
Yeah.
friend, my dear friend Marilyn, who I worked with 25 years ago, who was like sort of a mentor to me about this stuff, because she's sort of like my age now, you know what I mean? So she was like that wiser person,
Back then.
25 years older than me. And she used to do this great, I think I may have told the story before, but she said every leader should start their day with a pocket full of coins. And you could do it with real coins or just imaginary coins, but literally you could put a pocket full of coins and go around looking for people doing things well and doing things right. Catch them doing things right. And every time you see them doing things right, move a coin from one pocket to the other. So by the end of the day, your left pocket's empty and your right pocket's full, and you did a great job as a leader. And within that day, you can also catch people doing things wrong. It's okay to say, hey, we want to change this. And did you know this may not work? Or let's move the cart, like you said. But when you spend all your time, most of your time, giving them positive feedback and noticing the good, they're not going to be threatened when you just give them the one or two negative things. But if all they see is you going around looking to point out mistakes, they're all going to be in protection mode and head down mode. So I loved her idea about the coins, and I think it's still relevant today. I guess you have to figure out how to do it on Zoom virtually.
Well, I was just thinking, I believe you could though.
Yeah.
I've managed teams internationally virtually,
Yeah. Yeah.
and maybe I wasn't doing this consciously, but I guess I would just randomly send the message, "Hey, do you have a quick 5 minutes?" Not a meeting request, not something formal, but it's
Right.
almost as if you're popping into their quote unquote office. You're
Yes.
jumping in,
I love it.
not with a give me a status update. It's just a, hey, I know you're 3 provinces away. How would you what's going on over there? I did that randomly, and now I'm thinking that was kind of my version of manage by walking around, to
Yes.
just
Yes.
establish connections in different ways other than it just being always about the work too.
I love it.
So
So,
maybe
Caleb,
that's
we're talking about these beliefs, right? These beliefs are really cultural beliefs. They kind of create a
Mhm.
culture of psychological safety, inclusion, all the good things that we know work to make a workplace a place where people feel comfortable, confident, and a sense of belonging. And I think we wouldn't do it justice if we didn't talk about the way to do it wrong. And the way to do this wrong is when you look at these beliefs, you don't notice the beliefs, you notice the behavior. So you look at the yellow rope, you look at the cord, and you want to install the cord in your business instead of installing the circumstances that make pulling the cord safe.
Hmm.
So don't buy the ping pong table and give away the free lunches and offer snacks and have the cord where people can stop the production line. Create the conditions where whatever you do, people know you care and they feel okay and they feel safe and they feel like they can act. We have to talk about that for a minute.
Because people don't disengage randomly.
That's right.
They adapt to the system that they're in.
That's right.
So the system with which you've created, people will fit into it out
Yeah.
of necessity.
If it's say what's on your mind, they'll say what's on their mind. If it's shut your mouth, they'll shut their mouth. I mean, people are smart enough to adapt and lay low when they should lay low and raise a hand when they should raise a hand.
Yeah, it's in that way. Reminds me of a horse we used to have on the farm. This is a random story, but the pen size. It's amazing what animals will do based on the pen size that they're in. And that horse
Okay.
had an entirely different personality when it was in the larger pen.
Oh,
Entirely.
wow.
No issues. You could get on it, no bucking, no nothing. Just easy, any age, get on that horse. But
Yeah.
at the moment we had to shift him in, his name was Salty, into the smaller pen. Good luck. That horse,
Wow.
not a fan.
Wow.
I don't know if that story is relevant, but it just made me think about it
No,
when we were
no,
talking
it
about.
feels like it because you change the environment and you change the behavior, you know?
I guess, yeah.
I mean, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about how much the system, the environment, the circumstances shape the people. And it's the same people, same horse, different pen, same people, different organizational
Different
experience.
system.
So you just crosswalk the horses to the Toyota GM and drop the mic after that because who knew that was going to happen?
You know what? I didn't know I was going to bring my A game, and it just happened. It
Oh,
just
you
slipped
always bring
out.
your A game, Kaylee. Come on.
I don't know. Joe. I'm going
I
to
don't think
listen
I've ever
back to
seen
this
your
and
B
go,
game, honestly. I don't
I'm
think I've
going to
ever seen
listen
your B
back to
game.
this and go, what was I talking about? But
So, all right. Anything else on this topic? This was sort of a quicker topic. It was really
oh,
like a
good.
story that honestly, I was surprised I hadn't heard it before. I don't remember
Mm,
hearing it. It seems like a story I should have known. It's one of those where I'm like, how did I not know this one as a learning and development person? But the
I
fact that there's so much evidence of how the environment created an entirely different workforce. What we're saying here is have a little faith that that works everywhere. It's not just on a production floor. It works in a boardroom. It
mhm.
works on the floor. It works in an office. It works in a cubicle. It works everywhere because people will adapt to the size of the pen they're in. And I love the horse's name is Salty. Was that personality based, like a salty horse, like a little ornery?
It might have been actually. I'll have to ask
The
my
horse gets a
dad.
little salty. And
Dad
in the big
named
pen, the
him.
horse was Pepper. It was Salty in the small pen and Pepper in the big pen.
We had a different horse named Pepper Joe, actually. So,
All right.
yes.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yes.
Salt and pepper here. Come on now.
Yeah, that's true. It is true. But
Nice, nice.
okay, just to bring it back to what you're saying there though, I love the takeaways. I think if anyone listening is going, okay, well, how do I influence the system?
Yeah,
I'm not the
yeah,
CEO in an
right,
effort to make it practical.
right.
We did not discuss 3 T's. We just roll with it. But I don't
We
know about,
didn't. I knew we were rolling the dice today, but let's live
yeah,
a little. I got one. I have one. I have one. I have one.
okay,
Ready?
good, good.
Um, having as a leader, just asking the question people don't expect and say, not even, no, I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it. I'm going to make
Okay,
it even
okay, change
easier.
it.
As a leader saying, hey, we've been using this process for a while. Let's break it. Let's try to break it. Let's pick it apart. Let's see where it doesn't work. Let's examine it with skepticism and say, how can we break the process? And that might give people a chance to say the thing they've been wanting to say. Like if somebody has an answer pretty quickly, they've
Mm,
been trying to tell you this for a long time. So
okay.
if you have a process or a practice, like a policy, something that you do, the way you set up classes on your LMS or the way you set up a client in your CRM, whatever it is that you do as a team, when you say, hey, let's break it. Is this the best way we can do it? And I generally work from an appreciative way where I say, let's build the one we want. Sometimes you got to do it this way to get people comfortable saying that doesn't work. So see if they could break it. If they could break it really quickly, they've been probably thinking about it a long time and you didn't make it easy enough to say. So invite that.
Okay, maybe as a tactic then, this might be similar to that one, but I'm trying to think of it a really specific tactic way.
Yeah, go ahead.
If in your next meeting, if you ask a question such as, where is the work harder than it needs to be?
Yeah,
Just an
exactly.
idea.
That's another way. That's another variation. I love it.
But with that question, I think the follow-up to that, the tactic is when you ask it,
Yeah,
don't interrupt people while you're waiting for the response.
yeah,
Like to catch
agreed.
yourself in that moment as people are sharing to just pause. And if it were me, I always have a pet. I'd just start writing down what people say.
Yeah,
Don't, especially if you're someone who normally doesn't do that, that
yeah,
one nonverbal gesture could have real power. If you ask a probing question like that, or, what is there a workaround we're currently doing that's actually hurting us? Some sort of open ended question, and
right.
then grab your pen and whatever, even virtually, I'll hold up my notebook so people can see me writing it down virtually to take it in, to process without adding to or taking away.
Love it.
Okay.
I've got one more.
Okay. Well, perfect. That worked out.
And usually you're the two tactic tip person and I'm the one. So we're kind of flipping it.
You can speak to
So the
two.
one I have is about, the first belief that people are thinkers, not a set of hands. And I think this is a sliding scale. If somebody's brand new to a role, you're going to be more directive. You're going to be like, hey, this is how you might want to do it. As they gain experience, take that first time to say, you've been doing it for a while. How would you do it yourself? What would you do differently? Give me your best ideas. How would you change it? And then as people evolve, when you have a more seasoned employee and you give them a new assignment, you can say, look, here's the goal. You tell me how
Run
we're
with
going to
it.
do it. You tell me
Hmm.
how to do it. Come back to me with your ideas for delivering it. I'm not even going to give you any ideas unless you need me. So always be available, but don't always volunteer it. Because oftentimes as a leader, the minute you suggest a path, they're like, well, if it fails, he suggested it. So at least I could point to that. And that's not how we should operate. It should always be, take the risk. Tell me what you think. And it goes to the other beliefs. There's no punishment if this doesn't work. It's simply a learning method. It's a learning opportunity. Hey, your idea, good intentions, didn't play out. What did we learn? What are we going to do differently next time? So it's kind of like a combo tip. It's taking belief 1 and 4, the one about, I'm autonomous and I could think, and the other one about don't punish mistakes, let people fail quickly, learn something, and try again.
Everyone's allowed to pull the cord.
Everyone's allowed to pull the cord. Don't just put a cord in, though, if you don't have a circumstance.
Yeah.
Because if the cord leads to a trap door where you fall through into a pit, you've got the wrong kind of culture.
Joe, I feel like I nailed it by concluding with that particular sentence.
You really did. I didn't know I didn't know what to do. Just smile and say goodbye. So I kind of like added on, which wasn't that great.
Cord, board, cord. I like it. I think we nailed it. I mean,
That was fun.
far-
That was fun.
as far
Yeah,
as structured conversations go, that's pretty textbook, really.
that was a good time. Well,
Oh
hey,
my God.
it's always fun. I'll say this. We should always say this. Like, if you're listening, if you're watching, thank you. We love it.
Yeah.
If you have any ideas, topics that you're interested in, let us know. There's many ways to reach us. We make it easy for you. Um, and that's it. Fun times. Always a pleasure, KayLee.
See you in a fortnight.